If you approach a platform with the mindset of social media, you're going to focus on all the wrong stuff. But if you approach it like Google and like you want to rank something for traffic and you're using keywords and descriptions, it's totally different. Like you go in to see way better results if you actually approach the platform as it's supposed to be approached rather than using it for something that it's not intended. Most people that use Pinterest are under the assumption that Pinterest is like a social media platform. In fact, it's not, it's the opposite. It's actually more like Google, except in images.
This podcast is brought to you by Bambassadors.com, the go-to platform for e-commerce brands to create video reviews that boost social proof and sales on TikTok and beyond. Get your first video review created and posted by a genuine creator, completely free, no strings attached, and no credit card required at Bambassadors.com.
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron Been.
Hi Craig, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. And I'm quite excited to share everything that we've seen Pinterest do for e-commerce over the last few years. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm excited as well. I just told you that we're rebranding one of our stores and we're looking to acquire customers not via Facebook. Since the iOS update, the Facebook results have gone down. So we're wondering about Pinterest or TikTok, where should we focus? So I'm really looking forward to a conversation. But before we dive into like the best practices and what you think these days, can you share a bit about how your agency started, how you created Pin and Grow?
Yeah, it's a good question. A few people have asked this and I didn't realize that it's actually quite a unique story, I think. So yeah, basically I had left for Chiang Mai in Thailand in July 2019. And at that time, I didn't have a Pinterest agency. I had a health and fitness site that sold info products. And I'd had that pretty much since like 2017. And within the first month of being in Chiang Mai, I saw, because you've seen the groups, there's like lots of Chiang Mai groups. I happened to see a link or an invite to a mastermind. And a few people replied and some didn't. And obviously I saw it and I thought, yeah, this actually sounds quite nice. It was a 4-week mastermind and you meet once a week. And there was a threshold set for income. It was like as a filter just for not anyone and everyone to appear, which was good that he did that. But at that time, that site I had didn't meet that threshold, but I just kind of applied anyway. I just said I'm coming anyway. And it's interesting because the guy that set the mastermind is actually a really good friend of mine. And we're still good friends now. So I actually told them in the end that I didn't meet that threshold, but yeah, the rest is history. But I attended the mastermind. I think there was either 8 or 12 of us there, and like some super high-level people, like I consider high-level e-commerce owners and just some agency owners as well. And my intention was to grow the site that I'd already had since like 2017, 2018. But what was becoming clear every time we were meeting is that I'd learned something quite specific and quite unique. And I didn't know it at the time because I'd had my head down just doing what I was doing. And that thing that I'd learned is Pinterest. I thought, foolishly, that all successful brands or all successful online sites had all of their traffic or the majority of their traffic from Pinterest. I was wrong. That was a crazy assumption to have. By the end of the mastermind, I think it was like 2 or 3 days after, a few people within that group mentioned if I was ever to help other businesses with Pinterest, they would be interested. I sat with that. I went to sleep that night. I woke up. I reached out to a couple of people. Within 24 hours, I had my first 3 paying clients.
Nice.
And then something really interesting happened then. My name got dropped into a couple of Facebook groups by somebody that signed up as a client. And then what happened is I had a ton of people reach out. I had to stop people enrolling. We took it to 5. of either 5 or 6. And I was like, okay, this is the first time we've done this. Like, let's just chill. But I had so many people continue to ask for another week or 2 weeks after. I accepted another 4 or 5. So we capped it at 10. So within a month, I had like 10 paying clients for Pinterest. Yeah, it was amazing. And then what we did was we ran a beta program for 3 months. So it was like September, October, November, December in January 2019. Results went well. Everything went well. And then we kind of like launched officially in 2020, the 1st of January 2020. And it's kind of just snowballed like ever since. And it's really interesting because what I thought everybody knew and was just a given, it turned out that like not many people understand Pinterest and not many people use it as it's intended. And yeah, it kind of blew me away. Like from going into a mastermind with like an info product site that sold like health and fitness products and acted as like an affiliate for some other physical products. Yeah, within 6 weeks, I had an agency.
Nice. It was 10 clients, which isn't bad at all.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like it happened really, really fast. And yeah, it's just kind of snowballed. And obviously, we've evolved over time. Like Pinterest has changed. We've evolved to suit that. But also we've evolved in terms of what it is that we do for clients. Like what we did back in 2019 is very different to what we're doing now. Mainly because you can't do certain things on the platform, but also because we saw a shift in 2021. Actually, it was a subtle shift by lots of different bits of information coming out. And then when I saw all of this like being released and some of the stuff that was happening on the platform, we just saw a clear direction, I thought I saw a clear direction in where Pinterest was heading. And it was very clear they were going for e-commerce in particular. They introduced a ton of new features. And even though it wasn't aimed at e-com owners, these changes, they actually excluded the majority of people that use Pinterest that didn't have products. So it was like, okay, this is a very obvious direction that they're heading in. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind for the last like 2.5 years. And yeah, the agency's grown like a lot. It started off with just myself and one designer and one assistant. And today it's like a team of 13 plus myself. So it's like, it's changed a lot since then. Yeah, and it's been a whirlwind for the last couple of years.
Sounds great. So what are some common misconceptions about Pinterest that people don't realize?
Yeah, there's actually a couple. Like, I think the main one is most businesses, actually most people that use Pinterest are under the assumption that Pinterest is like a social media platform. In fact, it's not, it's the opposite. It's actually more like Google, except in images. And the way Pinterest have positioned themselves is a search and discovery platform, which is essentially a search engine, but just for pins, just for images and video. And like the biggest thing that I see still today is if you approach a platform with the mindset of social media, you're going to focus on all the wrong stuff. But if you approach it like Google and like you want to rank something for traffic and you're using keywords and descriptions, it's totally different. Like you're going to see way better results if you actually approach the platform as it's supposed to be approached rather than using it for something that it's not intended. I don't know why there's this big gap in knowledge between people that use Pinterest and what they think it is. It might be the way the Pinterest's own positioning and messaging has changed over the last couple of years, because they've tried a ton of different things since, like I started using it back in 2017, and it was very different then to what it is today. And I don't know, maybe the mixed message is because of how they positioned themselves. I'm not quite sure, but for whatever reason, that still exists today. But it is changing. I think it is changing slowly. But yeah, that's a big one. I think Pinterest is like a social media platform. And I would say, yeah, it's taking advantage of like the nature of a Pinterest user. So most other platforms, you're more inclined to see somebody make an impulse buy. So it's like, maybe Facebook, maybe Instagram, maybe some other platforms, they're more likely to see impulse buy or impulse purchases. On Pinterest, the mindset's very different. They're looking for, when I say it's like people on Pinterest, they're looking for new ideas, new concepts, inspiration, and unbranded products. So they're not looking for your major brands, they're looking for unbranded products. And the difference is somebody's more inclined to save something, hang around, come back to it a couple of times, then take an action. Whereas on other platforms, it's like now or never. It's just a very different mindset. And I think understanding the mindset of someone that uses Pinterest over the mindset of someone who uses social media or some other platforms, it's worlds apart. And I think understanding that can help with that, with many other things. It's like creating ad campaigns that actually match this mindset. It's on the organic side, it's capturing email addresses as quickly as possible. Like a lot of people neglect that. They're like, some of the brand owners we're working with right now, they don't have the organic side set up that well. And some of the things they're missing out on are building a big email list, because the traffic potential on Pinterest is enormous. Like I think people underestimate, maybe that's something people underestimate, is the traffic potential. And if you have 200, 300,000 people coming to your site a month, and you're not collecting or capturing emails, like that is a big thing that like you're going to miss out on for sure. So yeah, it's like understanding the nature of a user on Pinterest compared to other platforms, not knowing that it's a search engine over a social media platform, and understanding the mindset of somebody that's actually using the platform. They're more interested in looking for something new, a new product, a new brand, a new service. Yeah, it's just very different.
Interesting. And with regards to e-commerce store owners, who do you suggest should test Pinterest? What type of brands? Is it a specific type of product? Because let's say most of the Facebook, as you said, Facebook advertisers are normally relying upon impulse buying. So are these type of products also relevant to Pinterest, but just with a different approach? Or is that completely different businesses should focus on Pinterest while other businesses should focus on like Facebook ads and more impulse buying?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the best results we're seeing right now, we're seeing anything from, so if I give some data on some paid ads, and then I can relate that to the niches and the products.
Awesome.
Maybe we can see, and the price points as well.
Cool.
So the best results we're seeing right now are with premium priced products. And we're talking $1,000 up to $6,000. And people are buying these products. The best niches that we are seeing right now are men's and women's fashion, including like apparel and accessories. So it's like watches, jewelry, like everything that you would associate with like lifestyle. That's working really well. One of the best performing things that we're seeing right now is actually diamonds and women's jewelry in particular. It's really, really, and these products are high priced. You're talking $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 up, and people are buying this stuff. And we're seeing really good data from the paid ads stuff on these high priced products. And yoga, the yoga niche is doing really, really well. It's a popular niche on Pinterest anyway, but the thing that surprised us is that, like, we're working with a few clients, and one in particular has like a premium product. It's over $1,000, and people are buying this product. So it's like the best results we're seeing are premium priced, or at least premium positioned. So maybe the price doesn't always dictate, but something that's actually like luxury based or premium based in terms of like how the brand is positioned, the product or themselves. That's definitely working really well, really, really well. The supplement niche, so it's like health, wellness, that type of stuff, greens products, things like food supplements. So it's like maca powder, camu camu, spirulina, wheatgrass. What else is there? Matcha tea is a big one. They're quite popular. The difference in the results is on that end of the scale, the products are a little bit less. So it's like it's harder to see the same results that we're seeing on the higher end, but the results and the traffic potential is still there. It just takes a little bit longer for the data to see like a more positive or a bigger positive return. But yeah, I mean, some of the products are really, really interesting. Some of the brands are really, really interesting. But if I was to pick like 4 or 5 topics, it would be, or niches, I should say, it's men's and women's jewelry and fashion, supplements, DIY. So it's things like home decor, interior design, like home products, like furniture, that type of thing. Yeah, I would actually categorize those, and then I would probably separate like fashion and jewelry, and maybe have those as two separate niches. But those are the best niches that we're seeing like perform the best right now.
Nice. I have a longer question in a moment, but Jess, I would like you to clarify. So you said data acquisition. So is the Pinterest pixel kind of similar to Facebook? It has to see like a lot of processes in order to optimize, or not really? It's optimizing from the get-go.
Yes and no. So what you have instead of the Facebook pixel is Pinterest equivalent, and Pinterest equivalent is the Pinterest tag. The Pinterest tag obviously needs data, but we've actually tested this. It's actually a good question. We've actually tested this quite recently, and we found that when we run traffic campaigns, so not conversion campaigns, just traffic campaigns to product pages and content, in addition to a sales campaign, that traffic boosts the conversions for the sales campaign. And when we switched it off, it dropped. So it led us to it. We still need to do more testing. We've done this a couple of times, but it's led us to suggest that we don't need to see checkouts or add to carts. It's just activity on the site itself. Because what we think is happening is it's tracking the users that come from Pinterest, and therefore the ad can optimize and show to more of the same audience. And then like that seems to be the case. We need to like test at a bigger scale, but that's kind of what we're seeing at the moment. And this is actually something that came up quite recently, actually last week, is there's no official threshold in place for Pinterest. Like you can run ads if you don't have any traffic, and you can run ads if you have like 1 million visitors, and the traffic can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to come from Pinterest. And what we've noticed, we don't know for sure, is that there looks to be an arbitrary threshold of around 10,000 visitors a month, where there's a tipping point from ads not doing well at all to all of a sudden doing well. And it looks like the more traffic you have to the site from everywhere, like Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok, whatever, SEO, the more activity on the site in general, the better the ads perform on Pinterest. And it looks to be pretty, not conclusive because we still need to test this, but it does look like there's definitely an arbitrary threshold of around 10,000 site visits per month.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's do like a thought exercise. And obviously this is going to be a question that can fill up a whole course. But let's try to make it concise. Assuming I come to you with like a supplements brand, so how would the onboarding process look like, and how would you build out the process? How would you allocate the funds, organic versus SEO? How would you start testing? How much would you spend on a monthly basis? When would you expect to see results? So just walk us through as concise, but as broad as possible.
No, that's good. Yeah, so initially there's an onboarding form once we've signed up and the contract signed. And then within that onboarding form, we ask for things like, where else are you testing ads? What are the metrics you see? What's your break-even point? What other platforms are you using? What other creatives work well on other platforms? Messaging and positioning. So we have all of this data and we take all of that. In terms of how we split, so we don't require additional fees for the organic. Like we take care of everything for the organic, which I'll explain what that looks like. In terms of the paid, Pinterest's ad, this might be the same as other platforms. I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know other platforms. I literally only know Pinterest. But with an ad on Pinterest, it can take anything from 1 to 14 days to optimize. So you have like a learning phase. Again, that can shorten if you have a very high traffic site, but let's just say it's 14-day period. In terms of the daily spend, the way that Pinterest prefers to set up is with a massive audience. The bigger the audience, the better, which I think might be counterintuitive to other platforms. But the bigger the audience, the better the ad performs. And in terms of the daily spend, it depends on the price of the product, and it also depends on if an owner knows an average CPA for an add to cart or a purchase, then we can kind of see it around about then. But as a general rule of thumb, again, it's an average, it's not a definite, but we tend to start at around $40 to $50 a day, and then we can kind of like see what happens after that. The reason we test that is the reason we start around then is it's like the minimum to get moving in the right direction, to get feedback as quickly as possible. You can start with $10 a day, you can start with $20 a day, but the impact of that, I guess the best way to describe it is you're going to lengthen the time that you get feedback from. I think that's the best way to describe it. The paid advertising, we ask for all of the original images and any brand assets that are available, video and static images. We do all of the research. We do all of the optimizations. We test everything. We monitor everything. And one of the cool things we've introduced, I think it's cool, maybe other people won't, is that we made our own custom dashboard so that it updates in real time. So you can actually see the data coming through in real time, which is really interesting. And this might be something that your audience may find interesting. And actually, what you mentioned earlier about not so much attention on Facebook right now because of iOS, Pinterest have confirmed to us as much as possible that the iOS updates have not affected attribution on Pinterest. So it's very, very, very accurate. And I've asked for data, and I have an email somewhere, and I'll have to maybe find out the exact reasons why, but it's to do with the technology that Apple are using. And I think I may be mistaken, so apologies if I am. Pinterest is more in line or aligned with the technology of Apple over other platforms, which is why it doesn't seem to have impacted the attribution as much as, or at all, compared to other platforms. The one thing they did say is the only thing they don't have access to now is our specific devices. So before you could tell it's this phone or this device or this laptop, that feature is gone, but it hasn't impacted how you set up an ad or optimize an ad. So it's kind of interesting. And I actually think the more the e-com space in general realizes this, I think we're going to see a big shift.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we're going to see a big shift in advertisers using the platform. And it's going to be an interesting maybe 12 months or so, but I do think we'll see a big shift. We're already kind of seeing it now, but I think there'll be a tipping point where it'll just be, okay, I've had enough of not being able to track my ads. I want to see, like, is Pinterest working? Can it work? Is this a suitable brand? So that's the paid ads. Does that answer like the paid ads?
Yeah, it answers, but I would like to dive even deeper, maybe share some tactical and best practices. I mean, do you see, obviously it's a general question, but do you see like images working better than videos, manual bid versus auto bid? How do you structure the campaigns, like stuff like that?
Yeah, so in terms of the image creation, for conversion campaigns, so like cold prospecting, we are seeing 95% of the time static images working the best. They work the best over everything else. When it comes to retargeting, so obviously this was actually a feature that was introduced quite recently. I think 2 years ago, the retargeting didn't exist. Now it does, and it's actually really effective. We've seen that user-generated content for retargeting by far outstretches anything that you could ever create as a brand owner. We don't know why. We think that user-generated content, or at least content that looks like it's generated by a user, resonates more with somebody, especially testimonials or like something that, or transformation, that type of stuff works really well for the retargeting. So yeah, in terms of the structure, in terms of the creatives, I would suggest static to begin with for sure. What we also noticed is with the static images, basic product images don't perform that well. What we've seen is the lifestyle image with the product. And given the demographic of Pinterest, obviously this isn't going to be applicable for a male specific product, but if you have females between 25 and 55 in shot of the product, that's typically going to perform better than a product on its own or a man in the product as well. Obviously, like if you have a men's fashion range, it's going to be highly different. You can't put a female in that. But if it's if gender isn't an issue with products, then females within that age bracket seems to work the best. In terms of how we set the ads up, we look for interests and keywords. There is an actor-like option, but at the minute, like we've not implemented the actor-like at all for any of our clients because the keywords and the interests seem to be performing quite well. We've, at the moment, in the last 6 to 9 months, we've not even needed at this point to delve into the affinity. So you can have affinity between different categories and different products. We haven't yet needed to do that because we're still exploring and still growing within the interests and the keywords for specific products and specific brands. I guess that's kind of like an overview of like how we're setting things up. And what I guess like what I would mention is the bigger the audience, the better. Like sometimes it looks crazy because you have like 15, 25, 30 million. And you're like, well, maybe that's too big. Maybe we should like bring it down a little bit, but they seem to perform the best. And not just in terms of traffic, because obviously what you don't want to do is like set up a campaign that's a massive reach. You touch everybody, but there's no traction in terms of add to carts and conversions. That doesn't seem to be the case. So it's still working out like better to have a bigger audience for sure.
Quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app. And we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show. With regards to like the geography, so many people, even I think that it's only in the US, but probably I'm incorrect. So what are you thinking with regards to like countries?
Yeah, predominantly US. US brands or anyone that sells in the US is far likely to have really good success, especially on the paid. However, we know for sure that UK brands are working really well. Like some of the best results we're having right now are in the UK with a UK brand. We're seeing anything from 4 to 6x on ROAS, so it's working really well. And the other thing that's surprising us is the German market. In Germany, the ads I don't know if it's the ads, but it's the audience within Germany on Pinterest seem to be far more receptive and keen to buy than most other places. Those are the 3, US, UK, and Germany, that we've had actual experience in. So I can't speak of other like areas outside of that. Definitely, we would actually. I take the step back. We're about to launch 3 brands in Australia. So obviously we haven't done that right now, but that has some promising signs as well.
Nice. And with the German market, do you localize or you leave everything in English?
No, we translate. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
And with regards to the ROAS that you mentioned, first of all, there are a few things in our conversation that I would maybe ask the editor to leave out. These are secrets that I'm not sure I want to share. But I'm kidding. With regards to the ROAS, so can you share like a case study of people who came to you with a specific type of results with Facebook? and then they gave Pinterest a go using your guys' services. And what was the change in the ROAS that they saw? I mean, for me, I would love to start using Pinterest, and I would probably be amazed if it will produce better results than Facebook. But I'm sure this is something that you see often. So can you share some case studies?
So we have case studies, but we don't have a case study where we've compared our data to Facebook's. And the reason why is the majority of brands that we work with are not new brands. Like most of them have been around for a while, where they've already had good success pre-iOS on Facebook. So this means, I'll use an example of like the difference in where we're at with Pinterest for one client. And this is quite similar across the board compared to where he's at with Facebook. So he's on Facebook, he's spending between, even now after post iOS, he's spending anything from $800 to $1,200 a day on ads, and he has really good ROAS on that, even with the underreporting that he's seeing. I think it's between 3 and 4x on his Facebook ads. So that's nice. But for the Pinterest stuff, we're only now ramping up that daily spend. Like we've just passed the $100 a day mark. So it's like, we can't compare that because the audience reach is just so different. In a few months' time, we will be able to do the analysis of, okay, this is what Pinterest performed at this point. This is what Facebook performed at this point. What I would say is within the first 6 weeks of the Pinterest campaign, compared to his first 6 weeks of his Facebook campaign, he was spending $50 a day for the first 6 weeks. We spent $40 a day for the first 6 weeks, so like 20% less. And we saw more add to carts and sales than he did in that first 6 week period on Facebook. Over time, obviously, the Facebook's been ramped up, but it works really, really well. But it gave us really good feedback as the audience is definitely there. The interest is definitely there, and the product is already selling at a higher rate than it was when he first started on Facebook. And that's actually quite similar to one of the brands we're working with in the UK. Those are the two best benchmarks I can give. I would say the signs are promising for the early phase that we were in like 2 months ago for the low ad spend compared to his first 6 weeks on Facebook. And I think he was actually quite surprised because he's gone through a couple of platforms and now he's seen Pinterest as actually Pinterest is a great channel for this particular brand and this particular product. He just didn't know how to use it. He's like, what is Pinterest? So that's why we kind of helped out and doing what we're doing. But yeah, I think that's probably the best side-by-side data I can provide.
But later on, when you scale, do you see customers that are spending like significant amounts in Pinterest, like you mentioned for the Facebook, $1,000 per day or $5,000 per day, or it's not there. The scale isn't there.
Yeah, the scale's definitely there. I mean, we're gonna be close to seeing like $1,000 up per day with clients like very soon. We're literally on the way up. I don't know what it's like with other platforms. Because again, like I'm very naive with other platforms. I honestly don't know how they operate. We can only increase at a certain percentage on the current spend, because if you were to double ad spend, you basically knock the entire campaign back to learning phase. Is that the case with other platforms?
This is what they say. Basically, this is what they say in Facebook as well, that you need to increase. They don't know what is the percentage, but you're supposed to increase like 10 or 20%. This is like the best practice. If it's for real or not, nobody really knows what's going on because it's a black box, but this is basically what they're saying.
Okay, it's actually quite similar to Pinterest then. So it's suggested to never go above 30% from the day before because it will kick it back. So we tend to go up between 15 and 20% once we see things improving and going as they are. We've kind of taken the approach where it's like some clients have said, okay, let's do this. And then we do, but we also have to be mindful of we still need to see data and traction along the way before amping up to the suggested daily volume, because what we don't want to do is go to the suggested daily volume and then not see the traction that we were seeing in the beginning. So yeah, we're very mindful of that. We still need to see, like, it's going to be different for every client. We still need to see add to carts and checkouts along the way up, which is kind of the approach that we've taken. But yeah, I mean, no, the scalability and the traction is definitely there. Yeah, we're talking 4 figures in spend up per day, like quite easily in some niches. I think the niche will dictate the daily spend because of the size of the audience. Just to put it in perspective, there's about 450 to 500 million active users per month, which I think is Pinterest, Facebook like 2 billion?
Yeah, 2 billion more or less, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like 75% less. So when you factor all of this stuff in, it's like the niche will dictate the volume based on the size of the audience. Obviously, that's like applicable to all platforms, but when you take into account your 500 million pool compared to 2 billion, it's like it's night and day.
Interesting. And let's talk a bit about the compliancy with regards to the do's and don'ts, because in Facebook ads, another one of the disadvantages is the fact that Facebook are shutting down accounts pretty often, and you have a very strict rule or guidelines with regards to what you can advertise. Let's say today you can use before and after, but in the past you couldn't use like before and after photos, and supplements were problematic. So I wanted to know, how does this look like in Pinterest? Do you have good support? This is the first question. And the second question is it hard to be compliant, or the rule very restrictive?
Yeah, 2 good questions. So I think I'll answer the first one with some of the benefits that happen for clients that come through us. Is in September last year, my agency was enrolled into Pinterest's approved partner program. So what that essentially means is we have weekly calls with Pinterest, my team and myself, and we speak about all clients' accounts at all times. We have a direct access to an account manager and then a data team behind that account manager. So we have like full access to some data that isn't public knowledge in terms of like their own Pinterest advertising database, so we can see metrics and benchmarks. And in terms of the support, we've never had a time where we don't get our account manager or one of their team replying within 24 hours. So we have a fairly nice flow of information. Outside of that, I do know I know quite a few people here in Bali that use Pinterest ads, not through my agency, for themselves. You do have an option to have a Pinterest rep. I don't know what that is like, because we've never taken that route. We've always had it through our official channel. So I don't know what that support is like. I do know that you never seem to have the same individual for a sustained period of time. So the knowledge changes within the account or your rep. Obviously that's not great, but if you still have communication, then that should be okay. That's for the paid ads. Outside of the paid ads, you don't, unless you come through our agency, you don't get support on the organic stuff. It's very hard to speak to somebody at Pinterest about organic growth. It's just kind of their time in their perspective is better served serving people who are actually spending money on the platform, which kind of makes sense.
For sure. And we'll dive into, I have a few questions about organic in a moment, but with regards to ads compliancy, is it complicated to be compliant?
No, it's actually quite strict. So we only had one ad not be accepted, and we were 99% sure it wouldn't get accepted. So we just kind of tested anyway, because it was to do with yoga. So there was no before or after photos. There was no, I think the technical term on Pinterest they use is body shaming. So it's like we weren't body shaming. There was no images like that, but we did use the term weight loss and yoga, and we put that together. That was the reason it was not accepted. It was nothing to do with the images. And we had a feeling that might happen. So it was like, okay, we'll just try, see what happens. But it did first. But apart from that, weight loss for ads, when you use that term, doesn't seem to it doesn't seem to work in terms of be accepted. There are some other niches that aren't accepted. From what I understand, this might have changed while we're doing this podcast, but I think cryptocurrency you can't run ads for that. You can't run ads for financial advice. And I think it might have changed because things are changing often within the US in terms of the states, but you can't run CBD ads as well. But aside from that, we've had no issues with being compliant. We seem to be pretty good. Maybe it's the products we're testing, maybe it's the brands we're working with, but overall, like out of all the thousands and thousands of creatives that we've published for clients, we've had one rejected, and we kind of knew it would.
Nice, cool. And with regards to the organic, so what do you see in terms of organic growth? Is it hard to grow organically in Pinterest? Is it worth spending time or?
Yeah, so the way that we set up our core offer, so our core offer is like our signature offer, if you like. We suggest using both. We help clients build a brand with the organic traffic, and the organic traffic is meant as a slow burner, but you're building a brand, you're building authority, and in the meantime, while that's happening, you're starting to get people click from Pinterest over to your site, which is also feeding the Pinterest tag at the same time. So it's definitely we suggest doing both. And the reason we do both, another level of why we do both, is when we can see an image or a piece of content that's gaining traction on the organic side, we can take that and turn it into a paid ad. So you have that option. Whereas if you were just doing paid ads, you would lose out on the insight that you see from the organic stuff. Plus, with the organic stuff that we're doing, this is actually came up quite recent. It might be that we're going to offer a secondary offer or even an upgraded offer where we come in and we help optimize the content, landing pages, and even the email opt-in all around that. Because from our perspective, we can send people from Pinterest to your site, but we would prefer to see that utilized, whether that's monetized or whether that's through an email or whether it's through something else. So we're trying to see like how we can make this fit and actually really take advantage of the traffic potential on the organic side that is there, other than just like sending people to the site. So that's something that we're actually figuring out like at the minute. And I think it has some real advantages, because just to give you an idea, maybe if I set some timeframes or expectations of organic, maybe that would help. It's a longer process now to start a brand on Pinterest that's brand new. Like literally, if you were to sign into Pinterest, create an account, and start publishing organic stuff on Pinterest to your site, it does take longer. Nothing much. You're not going to set the world on fire within the first 3 months. Like everything is a very slow process, but you will get to see some data. You will get to see like what people resonate with, what content ideas people like. Around the 3 to 6 month mark, that's when things start to build and you start to see traction. And then the 6 month plus, that's actually when you start to see the volume ramp up. That's with a new account. With an existing account, and this is like stuff that we've done since 2019, which I think it's a factor in why my agency grew so quickly in 2020, is it's very common for us to 2, 3, 4x traffic within a 30 to 90 day period. So we're talking something from 30,000 up to 90,000, like 50,000 site visits up to 150,000 site visits. Then we've got like countless case studies over the last couple of years that it's easier to really ramp up the organic with an account that's already on the platform. It doesn't even need to be active. It just needs to be there. As long as it's there, it's like Pinterest recognizes it as a legitimate account. Whereas like if you launch something quick and then you push all this organic content out, it's like the volume is turned down while it's figuring out what your content is. Like, is it of value, like trying to figure out your entire brand and product and content. But then as time goes on, the traffic goes up. So it's like the volume gets turned up. So everything starts to get really shown to like a much bigger audience then. But yeah, it's easier to 2, 3, 4x traffic from any level up to a point with an existing Pinterest account than it is from the beginning. But the traffic potential is there. I mean, we've seen accounts with anything from, this is all Pinterest traffic, 30,000 site visits, 80,000 site visits, 150,000 site visits, like 250,000 site visits a month. So it's 100%, the audience is there for the right brands and the right products for sure.
Nice. This is amazing. But by the way, it's something similar in Google. If you have a new domain, so you're like, it's called the sandbox. So you have to wait like at least 6 months until you're going up in the search engine results page. So this is why many people buy expired domains.
Makes sense. It's actually quite similar in that case. And actually, I knew of the sandbox, but I didn't know there was an actual time frame. It sounds like it's similar to Pinterest in the time frame as well. And it's interesting you mentioned Google, because I forgot to mention this. What we've seen is with some content for some products, what can happen is if it performs exceptionally well on Pinterest, what happens is the image tends to rank in Google. So you get to see this image in Google. And if you click through, you actually click directly through to the site. So you can get Google attribution literally at the top of page 1 from an image that's pinned on Pinterest, and you can see the image. On another level, if you type in certain search terms, you will get shown links to Pinterest images. So Google's showing you Pinterest images and take you directly to Pinterest, where you can click through to the site. So the two work, I wouldn't say in synergy. If you perform well on Pinterest, it can complement Google, but not the other way around.
For sure. Yeah. Cool. This is nice. It's also the same in Quora and Medium and a lot of other other platforms. This is great and very powerful. One last question before we start concluding. Is there any brands or maybe a few brands that come to mind that you think are good example to brands that are crushing it on Pinterest, that people can look up like to see what they are doing and model their stuff?
As an e-com owner or brand owner or physical product owner, I think there's a lot of brands on Pinterest doing things well to like above average to well. And I think the best thing to look for, if you know your competitors, run the search to see if you can find your competitors on Pinterest. They may or may not be there. The other thing to do is look for very niche search terms or product terms related to your brand or to your product, and run those through the search bar. Instead of just leaving that on the feed, if you click, so there's 3 tabs at the top of Pinterest. You have Explore, Shop, and Profiles. If you click Profiles, it will show you a list of accounts. And then what you need to look for is ones with the blue tick. The blue tick is a verified merchant. If you click on those and they are competitors, or you can see their competitors, open up their account and you'll be able to see like how well they are doing things on Pinterest. You have major brands on Pinterest. It's kind of like, I don't know why they do this. There are major brands on Pinterest. And we're talking globally recognized brands, like high-end brands, high street brands, everything. And they don't seem to get Pinterest. So it's not like I can say to your audience, go check out like this brand because they're crushing it, because a big brand doesn't necessarily perform well on Pinterest. And I think it's just because they don't understand it. But my approach would be, and this is actually part of the brand analysis that we do for potential clients, is we go and find 3 to 5 competitors, and we look to see what are their strengths, where are they not performing well, how could we together capitalize on the stuff that they're not doing. And most of the time, they just don't get the platform. You can just see that right away. So it's like, okay, this is our plan. This is how we would do it. This is how we would like combat all of this other stuff. And this is how we would crush it for you in favor of all of the other brands.
Awesome. And how do you analyze other brands, like based on the number of pins, the number of followers? I don't even know the jargon, but is there a way, is there any tool except for Pinterest to analyze the performance, or mostly
everything
on Pinterest?
Everything we do is manually on Pinterest. There are some apps and extensions that are available. We don't use those because they tend, unless they've changed, if they have changed, I apologize. But when we checked last time, the only thing they checked was the popularity of individual pins. And that's good if you're looking for content ideas and want to maybe make something better that's already performing well. But in terms of like a brand or an account, you don't get that much data. So everything we do is manual. So we look at how well organized is their account? Is their account very hyper-focused around their site? Is their site part of a verified merchant program? Are they using the organic site? Are they running ads? Like, how can we see this? And then we look at the site. We will look at the actual site. It's like, is their content optimized? Is their product listings optimized? Are they collecting emails? Like, what kind of stuff do they have going on as well? So yeah, everything we do is manual. At the moment, we have not found an app or an extension that can give us better data than the stuff that we're running ourselves.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Craig. Is there anything else that you would like to mention with regards to Pinterest ads that I forgot, or Pinterest organic, Pinterest growth that I forgot to mention or ask about?
No, I think we covered like most of the stuff. I would say, we covered most of the stuff. I think like the key is with the organic for a new account is just patience and persistence. It's just be consistent every day. Some of the changes that happened on Pinterest, maybe I can talk about some of the do's and don'ts in terms of like how to use the platform. Previously, pre-2021, you could take a popular pin of yours and you could just keep pinning. You could pin it all day, every day, and it would be fine. In fact, it would actually boost like the virality and the impressions. Now that's stopped. And if you did that, your account would get shut down quite quickly. Just pin one pin once. So don't continue to cycle through the same image. You can create multiple pins per image, but don't publish the same image over and over again. It won't work. It'll decrease the reach. The other thing that we've done because of the testing we did in 2021 is we stopped using schedulers, like third-party scheduling tools, because we found that it was dampening down the reach on Pinterest. So we upload manually into the platform because Pinterest has its own mini scheduler. You can schedule 14 days in advance. We use that. There's a bit more work involved for the team, but it pays off because things improved. So we don't use any schedulers at all anymore. And I guess the thing with the paid ads is static images for cold prospecting, traffic and conversion, and user-generated content and video content for retargeting for sure. I think those are the two main things that we've seen. And the bigger the audience, as long as it's relevant, the better. And yeah, day 1 to day 14 is kind of like chill. Just let it do its thing. Don't pull the plug on anything. And the other thing is the more traffic to the site overall, the better Pinterest ads will perform. Yeah.
Great. This is a great summary of the conversation.
Thank you.
Who should reach out to you? Is there any threshold with regards to spend or size of operation, stuff like that? Or
yeah, it's a good question. Like we actually have 2 avatars. Essentially, like it wasn't planned that way. It just kind of happened. Our first avatar is FBA aggregators, and they come to us because they're requiring brands at a fast rate. They take Amazon brands that are performing well, and then part of what they're doing is replicating the success on Amazon, off Amazon. And we're working with them with Pinterest and some other stuff. And they have like enormous budgets, enormous time, patience, and there's a lot more, there's a different mindset. And yeah, so that's one avatar. And we have a range of different brands that we work with aggregators. And then our second avatar is actual brand owners. And in terms of a threshold, as long as we can spend like a minimum of $50 a day, then we're in a position where we can get good feedback and actually turn up the volume when we start to see a return on that. So it's like, that's probably the bare minimum in terms of daily spend. It might be less if you have a cheaper product, but around, let's say $40 to $50 per day. And in terms of the site, we prefer Shopify stores because the integration with Pinterest is smoother, it's cleaner, it's easier to track. It's just very streamlined compared to other platforms. But again, like, we're not going to turn people down who aren't on Shopify. And then the other thing is, the more traffic, the better. If you're above 10,000 sessions or page views a month, your ads probably optimize faster. If you're below 10,000, what we tend to do is we will work on building up the traffic with traffic campaigns and organic, so that we can push the traffic up before we start to turn up the volume on the sales campaigns.
Cool. So where can people reach out to you guys?
Yeah, perfect. I think our site, pinandgrow.com, is obviously the main site. There's a section there with some case studies. We need to add some more case studies in for the paid ads because we have quite a lot. But there's a ton of organic stuff there, and there's a section to book a call if anyone's interested. And the other thing that we're doing, which I can share with you, so you can share with your audience, is we're about to start a new Facebook group, and that Facebook group is only going to be for e-commerce owners who want to learn how to use Pinterest. And we're literally going to give away all of the material that we use within the agency. So, and somebody asked me the other day, he was like, why are you giving away like your entire SOP for your offer? And it's because, well, we don't monetize with info content. Our main source of revenue is with the done for you model. So we literally work with people who want to work with us. So giving away what we know is not going to change what we do. And if we're in the process, if we end up being known as the Pinterest group or the Facebook group for Pinterest and e-commerce that give away what other people charge for, then yeah, I'm happy with that.
For sure. Totally understand this strategy. Cool. Thank you so much, Greg. It was great. I have a lot of ideas with regard to Pinterest. I might contact you further down the line when we finish optimizing our stuff. It's been a pleasure, and it sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. And I enjoy sharing everything that we're learning and testing within my agency. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Great. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number one, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called EcomXFactor Official. Number two, check out our Facebook group, which is called EcomXFactor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.